Pod Candy!
A podcast about cults, crimes, and killers. Before we begin, a content warning.
This episode discusses the deaths of children, severe mental illness, postpartum psychosis, and religious extremism.
The material may be deeply distressing for some listeners. Today on Pod Candy, we're taking a closer look at the cult behind the killer, the Andrea Yates Story, on HBO Max.
At Pod Candy, we don't just recap these documentaries. We examine what's underneath them, focusing on the context, the systems, and the warning signs that are often overlooked.
The series examines the case of Andrea Yates and the forces surrounding one of the most devastating crimes in modern American history.
Rather than focusing solely on the crime, the series looks at the broader conditions that led to it, including severe mental illness and extreme belief systems.
One of these influences was Michael Woroniecki, whose radical teachings became deeply embedded in the Yates family's belief system.
In 2001, Andrea Yates drowned her 5 children, a story that immediately horrified the nation and was quickly reduced to a single headline, often without context.
What this documentary presents is a far more complicated and troubling reality, marked by warning signs that were documented and repeatedly ignored.
Please listen with care.
Outside my window, it's only raining. When the wind blows, I feel pain. I don't need no doctor, baby, I'm not sick. My body's been locked up, heartbroken ever since.
Dori, this was one of the hardest ones to listen to.
Agreed.
Or watch, I should say.
Yeah. Just so everybody knows, I did text the doctor and Stacey after I watched episode 2, and I'm like, I don't even know if I can finish episode 3. It was I didn't know a lot about Andrea Yates. I had heard of her years ago, but I wasn't really like into, every single true crime story. So this was a tough one for me and for you.
Yeah. And I have to say, I had the same experience as you. I turned it off quite a lot and, took a break because, you see these adorable angels, these kids, these 5 kids, and they're just, I think the oldest one was, how old was the oldest one?
Maybe like 5
or 6, maybe.
6. Yeah.
Yeah. And, aging down to babies. But I didn't, all we hear about, talk about without context, all we hear about and all I heard about when I knew about this case years ago, was that this woman drowned her 5 kids in her bathtub. But now we look deeper into this and we realize that there was a religious, cultish component from this dude that the whole family was following, the dad, the husband, Rusty, and Andrea.
Houston Police, it's Stubblefield.
I need a police officer.
What's the problem? Someone burglarized your house? I mean, what is it? Hello?
I just need a police officer. I just need him to come.
Are you there alone?
No, my kids are here.
I was at work maybe an hour and got a call from Andrea. I mean, she's like, you need to come home. I'm like, why? You need to come home. I'm like, my heart sank because I'm like, oh no, what has she done? I got home. There are already media trucks all the way down the road, roads blocked off, police cars everywhere.
And when the officer arrived out here, he saw the woman at the door. She was still breathing heavily, and she said, "I just killed my kids." She let him in. On the bed, covered with a sheet, were 4 of the children. And a short time later, a backup officer found the 5th child in the bathtub.
When I got to the house, the police wouldn't let me inside. And Andrea was still inside the whole time. I remember banging on the back door. How can you do this? I don't understand. How can you do this? I don't understand. I'd do anything, to save my children, and there's nothing I could do.
But, they blamed her depression and her weird behavior for years on postpartum depression. They put her on meds. I think she went off meds. There was this influencer, Michael Woroniecki, this Christian, extremist, who believed in death and devil and demons and stuff that influenced her. And, it showed a real person completely brainwashed, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I just want to confirm one thing. Was her husband, isn't it Russell or is it Rusty?
Rusty.
Oh, her husband is Rusty. And then Moses was the other gentleman who spoke.
Moses.
Okay.
Yeah, Moses.
Right.
And then there was another guy who I loved. And for some reason, John gets all the names.
I don't remember.
He's getting it right now.
He's very involved in the story.
He's very, so there were a few people, we find David.
Okay.
Of course it's David. The easiest name to, remember, David and Goliath. So yeah, David and Moses both talked about their experiences with Michael Woroniecki, similar experiences that Andrea Yates had. But Andrea really was deeply, deeply embedded in this.
Yeah. So
world.
Rusty met the dude, Michael Woroniecki, in school, in college. And
the normal dude, he played football.
Yeah, he was but he was really into preaching about the Lord. Like he, even at that time, and it's obvious that Rusty and Andrea are very, into Bible teachings and really into religion. But it sounded like Rusty kind of took more of the back end approach, where Andrea got fully wrapped up in, and she got fully wrapped up in this Michael Woroniecki and his teachings.
Early on in our relationship, Andrea and I both were in communication with Michael Woroniecki. He would send stuff in the mail like a track or a cassette tape.
God chose a little guy named Michael Peter Woroniecki, to share truth with you.
It would almost be like a, too strong a word might be spiritual advisor.
God wants to save you. God wants to heal you. God loves you.
I had met him back when I was still in college.
Jesus Christ, Lord of Lords and King of Kings, and shall set fire to this earth.
I felt like he was genuinely trying to follow what he read and saw in Scripture and tried his best to not be hypocritical.
Not church, not the Pope, not Roman Catholicism, not American Christianity. Jesus Christ, the living God.
I'd never seen that kind of message where you don't have to belong to a church, you don't have to belong to an organization to find God. I admired that.
But let's also say, like you had mentioned the word like influencer, like this is back in the 90s. Like these people were giving each other calls and sending each other snail
Tapes.
mail and tapes for the teaching. So it wasn't like they were hopping on the internet.
Exactly. This is old school.
Teaching. This is not like old school. And like they must have been, Andrea Yates must have been so into this to receive. David also was saying like he would get these tapes and passages and constantly be communicating back and forth. And again, these people had no internet at the time. It was literally just through the mail, through maybe a call, sending tapes back and forth. But the sad thing is that while Rusty maybe, because, you know, he was working and Andrea was taking care of the children, that she and Rusty agreed they were just going to have as many children as God would allow. So they were at 5. Like you said, like they were pretty much having a child like almost every single year.
Ironically, the last child was named Mary.
Ironically, yes. And maybe the child before Mary, she started having severe postpartum psychoses where she had to be in like go to a therapist. Was she institutionalized with that child, or it wasn't until later? I don't remember.
We will check with Dr. Mayer.
Yeah.
The doctor. But, you know, just like everything else we see, you know, kind of recently in the news when it comes to extreme religion, I won't even say Christianity, but there's just absolutely no accountability. It's just lies, lies, lies. Michael never, I didn't know David. I don't know these people. And he and his wife, Rachel, are just running around the country continuing to do this. He's not been in jail. I think he should be put in jail for the way he, the word is coming to mind is influence. The way he manipulated, gaslit, and brainwashed these people. But again, the hypocrisy of the religious, you're religious, but you're also a fucking liar.
Yeah.
With no accountability, no apology, nothing really human.
Yeah. I mean, he's out
call
there.
Yourself a man? You call yourself a man? Pussy is what I call you.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm really angry. I'm really angry about these people who claim to be religious and they have no accountability for their actions and their behaviors that are unlike anything Jesus would have taught.
There's a definite also running theme with a lot of these that you and I and the doctor have watched. Another one that truly teaches obedience with kids and abuse with children. And of course, Michael Woroniecki and his wife didn't directly say, go kill your children. However, it was, I see Dr. John in the green room over there. He made his fingers look like a skosh, but it was a skosh to literally saying to these people, yes, murder your children, abuse your children. Don't
let your children have instincts. Don't let your children have any of their own thoughts and feelings. You must control. You must create little robots.
I remember going to visit Michael at a campground. And I don't remember what I said. I just remember I was, quote, being haughty. Michael took that as, hey, you're not being strong enough on your kids. Do you spank your kids? Yes. Growing up under Michael's tutelage, violence is seen as a highway to God. You were supposed to spank your kids. We were beaten with pieces of plywood. And I remember one time I was about to be spanked, and I still had to write in Sharpie, like 1 Corinthians chapter 2, and then write the Bible verse on the thing you're about to be hit with. And nothing else feels like that in life. Nothing else tastes like that. Like the taste in your mouth when you're about to get hit with something that you're also trying to artistically do a good job on. It was beyond spanking. This was like psychological. So when we were visiting Michael and his family, he said, well, you're not spanking them hard enough. I need to show you how you should spank your kids. I was kind of like checking in with my mom's eyes to, okay, we're not going to do this, right? This is insane. But she was sort of nodding off like, this is actually a blessing. You get to be spanked by the Michael. You get to get the shit kicked out of you by the Almighty. So then we went to like the back bedroom area in the bus. And then he spanked us with their paddle.
So why again, we go over this every single episode that we do these, that we watch these. Why push for so many children when you just are teaching to abuse them?
Yeah, I'm snapping because that's the hypocrisy again. Pro-life, pro-abuse.
It's not
pedophile.
Right. And we pro-pedophile.
Pro-everything.
Yep. And we don't say pro-life, right, Stacey? Like, this is not a life. A lot of these children.
No. This is have a baby so that it can go into the system or be abused or be murdered on the street or be in a family of people that are extremists and not giving them any kind of life.
Right. And so the other gentleman, one of the guys is named Moses Storm, who really had a parallel life to the
I love it. He's a comedian, Dori.
Yes, I looked that up. I saw that.
I just wanted to say that. I'm sorry. Keep going. I really liked him.
No,
he was so emotional.
But that's the thing. The comedian is such a shock because during this documentary, he was anything but comedic. It was just very sad.
Very, very, very sad, very emotional. The opposite, empathetic, the opposite of what all these people are teaching.
He's the one who said, I understood and understand where Andrea Yates was coming from. I get it. His family was going through the exact same thing. And when when Andrea Yates killed her children, Moses was like, I wish it was us.
According to Michael's teachings, a child becomes no longer a child. They become no longer innocent. If they're not saved before the age of 12, which is the age of accountability, you're going to hell.
And if you had not taken their lives, what did you think would happen to them?
Guess they would have continued stumbling.
And where would they end up?
Hell.
I 100% believed all of this. All of this. I would be up at night, worried I was going to hell.
How old are you, Moses?
My mom would often express to us that if she found a way that we all died, that would be a blessing. Because if you die, I mean, you're going to heaven. You're going to paradise.
What were you trying to accomplish then when you did take your children's lives?
Maybe in their innocent years, God would take them up.
And so when I found out that they died, it wasn't shock at all. It was, damn it, they did it. They did it before us. And what does this mean for me in my place in heaven? That's why she did it. She was saving her kids.
You know, I think it might be John I see some claw marks on the wall. He's really clamoring to get in. I would like to ask him about this, but the biggest thing for me, takeaway was, how did we not know any of this in the 90s? Why didn't we know that there was this Michael Woroniecki guy.
Yeah.
All we heard was that this woman drowned her 6 kids. What a psycho, what a crazy, what a this. Guess what? We've all been crazy at times. Do you know what I'm saying? I of course not that, to that extreme, but you could see it happening, especially when somebody's weakened by having a baby, emotionally. And I had a little bit of postpartum depression, not severe, but that can really wreck you. And she was like seeing things. I mean, it's really serious.
Well, and the other thing, like you had mentioned too, is Michael Woroniecki still to this day, like he's walking free.
He's
he
walking
was
around
never
with
charged
Rachel
on anything.
No, nothing. He's just walking around being a fucking see you next Tuesday.
But let's also talk about too the husband.
What was up with Rusty? He was almost like he had like a smile.
Yeah. So let's just really talk about that. So as Andrea Yates is fully going through this trauma, this internal trauma, it's obvious they have that last child, Mary, which obviously pushes her over the edge. And the way that Rusty was discussing this throughout the documentary, I was like, he had
mind blown.
Because that he had like very little reaction that his children are all dead.
His children are dead.
He made mention that she was my wife and I loved her. He's no longer married to her. He has since remarried and has another child.
He has one son.
But through the documentary, and even when he met Moses at the end, they have a nice little face-to-face. There really was, like, am I insane? Or was there really
lack of affect?
Emotion.
Lack of affect.
Lack of affect. He was just talking about it like it was happening, like it happened to somebody else.
I agree. That's why I text you. I'm like, what is wrong with this Rusty? He's not feeling it. I didn't feel it. He might be in a cult. Who knows? He was just so guarded or psychotic. How do you act like that? And you see your kids on screen.
Relive my children or my parents or whatever it may be, if I have to relive and I'm being interviewed in a documentary, I'm going to have, even if it happened 30 years ago, I'm going to have some major emotion. Looking back.
Yes.
All right. I think this is a really good time.
That is the window to open to John.
Yeah. Well, let's open a window because we keep all those windows sealed shut. Really?
There are no windows in the green room.
Wait, he's out. How did
he can't breathe?
Plate of chocolate chip cookies, which this week were rather old. My colleagues.
Well, beggars can't be choosers. Okay.
I think they were the archways from the holidays.
Yeah, the archways that we saved, from our party, our pod.
I'll tell you, in your discussion here, in particular today, I felt like a caged animal from the zoo. Just you're right, Stacey, clawing to get out because there's so much.
This is a big one. It's a doozy.
Yes, it's a doozy. Which, by the way, our audience is picking up on that word, and I'm not even that happy with that word, but it sounds
doozy.
It sounds like a really old guy, and I'm only 39.
Oh yeah, you are very young, Dr.
Yeah,
John,
you're very. He's 39.
Thank you.
How about we say the do's from here on out? Now this
there
one
we
is
go.
a doo's.
This one's a doo's. Ooh, I think we just coined a new word. Thank you, Dori.
That's a new word. We got to get that on our highlight tape. As always, I like to make a couple comments on the documentary. I thought it was a good documentary, but here we go. It really led into our existence because a lot of questions not answered as to why, how this became this way. Questions about this just popped up, and it's not in order of my, importance, but where did this Woroniecki get all this money to travel around the country and the world, the documentary never told about people sending in money. Once it did, because our good and very sympathetic person, David, sent Woroniecki $20,000 to go to Europe to spread his preachings, which was crazy. That was when David was
rather spread manure.
Yeah. And I agree with Stacey. I have so many notes here, and forgive me for not making eye contact with my lovely colleagues, but I have so many notes to reference. And one of the things that Stacey said, which I had loud and clear in my notes, is this whole way in which this Michael Woroniecki preached, because he's yelling and screaming and berating people for, they're going to go to hell, et cetera, et cetera. And Jesus was never like that. He was a teacher and calm and loving and peaceful. And this guy's an absolute fanatic about you're going to go to hell. And as Dori pointed out, and I had to make a motion from the green room, that I really think Woroniecki was very responsible for instructing Andrea to kill her children. And, we've seen other cases that we've talked about, and I've had many cases where somebody like that, who is really an accomplice to murder, but nobody brought him into any of the cases. Were they lazy and didn't want to do it? Because, let's face it, Andrea Yates was pretty much an easy case to prosecute. It probably didn't cost all that much money. It was plain she killed her children, and maybe they just didn't want to throw the net wide enough to lasso this Woroniecki guy. But I feel he's just as responsible for what happened as anybody else.
And didn't Andrea, when she called the police, I think she had just, when you look in her eyes in the courtroom, literally, it was like nothing was there. But I feel, and you can better talk about this because of the psychological effect, but I feel like she was like, yes, I killed my children. Yes, I should go to prison. Yes, just like this is going to be my life. Yes, I did this. There wasn't a lot of emotion from her, it seemed, either, where she was just resolute that this is going to happen. This is going to be my life. I killed my children. I love my children, but I killed them. And now I go to prison.
Absolutely, Dori. And there's another, what was behind that? Because that's almost a glimmer of good mental health. She called the police after she did this act. That shows a little bit of conscience, or is it? And that psychiatrist who they had on, who was fine, I'm not knocking him, but he didn't get at, okay, what was going through your head at the time you called the police? Were you just trying to get help to get rid of the bodies? I know that sounds terrible, but she was so psychotic. That's the only reason I can think. Why would she call the police?
You love your children?
Yes, not in the right way, though.
Mrs. Yates had a number of paranoid ideas. She claims that she and the children would watch cartoons. The characters would speak directly to her, telling her she was a bad mother. Mrs. Yates believed that she was marked as evil. She believed she had 666 tattooed on her head. And she believed that Satan was literally within her and surrounding her and influencing her during her psychotic period before the killing. Michael Woroniecki lectured about Satan being a very powerful force.
The ravaging power of Satan, he will destroy your mind.
Michael Woroniecki is emphasizing how real Satan is and how these demons and Satan will take over your mind.
Satanic powers of darkness are seeking to war against you.
So she clearly was strongly influenced by Michael Woroniecki.
You need to wake up and to learn how to effectively fight.
His testimony was one of the most powerful. I've never forgotten what Dr. Resnick stated. Andrea Yates' religion was the trellis upon which the ivy of her mental illness grew. Everything in her psychosis tied back to her religious beliefs.
And let me tell, I think this is a good time to talk a little bit about postpartum depression and psychosis. And I might alienate both of my colleagues here because of what I'm about to say. And I've treated many patients with postpartum symptoms. And I will tell you through my experience that, and I'm trying to say two things at once here. This gets at also some of the hows and whys that the documentary doesn't talk about. In postpartum symptoms, let's not even go as far as depression and psychosis yet. A lot of it is about the postpartum period will set the table for you to react in a certain way, emotionally, psychologically. Whether you actually become postpartum depressed or postpartum, in Andrea's case, psychotic, really has deeper causes within your emotions in your brain, which means what I observe about Andrea, this just didn't happen in isolation at this time in her life because she had 5 kids in a row and she becomes postpartum twice. But we need to know what was beneath that. What was her upbringing? The documentary didn't go into her and Rusty's upbringing. What was beneath the postpartum that, again, postpartum sets the table where you could explode. There's plenty of mothers out there that give birth and they control their postpartum. Everybody has a postpartum reaction, and I'll get to that later.
That's a good point, because I think I was thinking about this too, and the way that like Rusty didn't show a lot of emotion as he was talking about what happened in the past. We don't, like, he's saying like, Andrea, I met her and it was great, and she was happy and all of that, but you're right, like there was nothing said when she was a teenager, when she was a child. Did something traumatic happen? Did she like go in and out of being happy, like high highs and low lows? Like there was no discussion of that. He didn't give us anything about that. So I'm glad that you just mentioned that, because now it's making me really think about it too.
Does postpartum start with something physiological or like so will you explain that? Because I think it's
yeah well, there's only a few periods in your life where you have the biochemical and hormonal changes that occur in giving birth and being pregnant. Your whole hormonal and biological system massively shifts in order for this wonderful event to occur for a woman. And as I said, there's only a few episodes in our life, especially as men, can identify with. One is birth. Next is our pubescence, when we get to be teenagers, etc. Menopause is another time. Death is another time. But motherhood is very unique in that way. So your whole biochemistry, your whole hormonal system is absolutely shifting. So what happens after you give birth? It's almost like the bottle has to come back in. It has to get back into your normal biochemistry and your hormonal system. And that's where postpartum comes in. Postpartum symptoms exist in every mother. I know that's a bold system to say, and please don't take offense at it. But whether it's expressed, like I said, it sets the table for you to be emotionally upset. Like you said, Stacey, you went through some postpartum. It's very normal. It's very normal. But because of your strength, your emotional and mental health strength, it was like you got through it, and you didn't kill anybody.
Yet.
So, yeah.
I was going to
But
say
you can't
yes.
blame it on postpartum right now.
Dori, I'm dying to know what you're.
No, I just wanted to make a really quick clip of I believe that the doctor said the word pubescent. It just I'm like
I heard
a 13-year-old. I'm like a 13-year-old child. I was like, he said pubescent.
I literally was thinking the same thing. And he also says heinous. It's a heinous pubescence.
Sorry, doctor.
Did I say heinous? Did I say heinous?
Pubescence. You say heinous, and it's so fucking funny.
Pubescent and heinous. Sorry.
You guys are the best, but you just love when you catch me making a mistake,
Because you know what? You're too perfect. We got to bring you down a few notches.
He's flipping us off, everybody. Oh, wait, I have one question, because you just said we all have postpartum in it. So are you saying I am a lady who has had no children?
Right.
So I'm curious, how is that within me? Like, what are you saying?
Yeah, you have the capability of, but it comes through pregnancy and childbirth. Again, those shifts. But you have a little taste of it on a pretty regular basis, and that's your menstrual cycle.
Okay. And you did say menstrual and not pubescent, right?
Yes. And it's
menstrual.
Heinous. It's very heinous.
It's very heinous.
So yeah, the same thing occurs, is that your period sets the table for you to be very emotional. Whether that's expressed or not, it depends on the individual. This may be a little tangent, but I think it's instructive. I had a patient once, teenage patient, who did LSD 2 or 3 times a day and other drugs. His father owned a business, a trade business. And this young man drove a truck of his father's truck. He was 17, 18 at the time that I saw him. And he was as high and as blasted on LSD and hallucinogens as you can be. And this kid, because he was so afraid of his father's reaction if he ever got an accident or anything, he controlled all the effects of the LSD and hallucinogens, if you're following me. He didn't have the hallucinations or delusions. You can just imagine he was driving his truck and he can control it. And that shows the interesting power of the mind. And the same thing occurs in postpartum and again in the menstrual cycle. It depends on the individual to control that. I've had patients, female patients, that when they get their period, go into a deep depression. So many other women just, it's like, okay, I have this feeling, it feels horrible, it's here again, and go on through their, about their life.
Luke was born in 99, right around Valentine's Day. Yeah. Ingrid was herself pretty much the whole time up until a few months after Luke was born. That's when she started withdrawing, just staring blankly ahead, and wouldn't say anything, so we didn't know what was going on in her head.
There's the precious little girl. She went to sleep.
Mary was born in November 2000. She's the 5th of 5.
Big brother.
Andrew seemed fine there for a couple months.
He's your little sister Mary. She's 5 weeks old.
But then Andrew very quickly declined. She was just a completely different person. She was nearly catatonic. And that's when the tragedy occurred.
There's something behind here that I would love to have gotten some information on. Her childhood or adolescence, what was the, we call it etiology, the deeper cause of what happened. So that's another question. I wish the documentary would have went into her background.
I'm just looking up Andrea Yates. Was born in Texas in 1964, was a high-achieving nurse and honor student before developing severe untreated postpartum psychosis.
Yeah.
It does say that. I
think they're pinning it on the postpartum psychosis, and my point is it has origins deeper than that.
Yeah, and she struggled with bulimia.
There you
depression.
go. Boom. There you go. We got some science to it.
And Moses, his mother, who was the niece of Michael Woroniecki, right? Wasn't his mom related to Mr. Woroniecki?
Yeah, Moses said that Michael Woroniecki was his uncle.
Right. So again, the parallel. Well, there is the parallel because he had a bunch of siblings as well. And as soon as Michael Woroniecki really got involved in their lives, things went off the rails as well in terms of the heightened religion and you're going to go to hell and all that.
And I was scratching at the walls in the green room at a moment when you were both talking to point out, if you remember, Moses said he was brought into the trailer that they were living in, and Michael Woroniecki told his mother, "I want to show you how to spank the boy." And Moses got the hell beat out of him by Michael
And he was
Woroniecki.
what, like 3? He was like young, like
he was
little.
Yeah, he was a preteen. Yeah.
Oh, he was older.
I have a hot take.
Yeah.
Do we think that some of this abuse is oddly sexual and sort of overly involved in hurting kids and beating them up and all these things? It just feels very...
Like not just Michael Woroniecki, but just in general, and these themes of the men giving the rules, and that a lot of the abuse that it could lean to.
Yeah, just leans into it.
Haven't we seen in the cases that we have discussed so far? You're really onto something, because in those cases, weren't all of those people had a weird sexual life as well?
Well, because in a lot of these religious cults and a lot of this, like, you isolate, you get molested, it's very screwed up sexually.
So screwed up. And the whole point of their rhetoric is, you can't have sex, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. Women dress like this, you need to do that, control this. But ironically and obviously hypocritically, these are the people that are abusing and beating up and raping and pedophile. And how many times have we seen this?
Bingo.
When are people going to realize that this kind of cult-like environment breeds pedophiles and abuse? When is somebody going to say something?
I think that's, Stacey, I think that's brilliant. What you're pointing out here is that there's this strange sexuality that's mixed
fixation. It's a fixation on sex, whether it's gay or straight or whatever.
Right.
And by the way, it's not sex with children, it's raping children, you fucking assholes.
It's also the power. It's definitely raping, definitely not sex. It is a control. It's control. It boils down, whether it be sexual or other things, it's all about the control. And it's mind control, body control, doctor.
Emotional. Can I lead into something that very importantly I wanted to say, especially in our always trying to say tips and tools for the audience to make their life better. And that goes into Rusty and Andrea's relationship. Our policy on Pod Candy is never to diss the victims. So I know you guys talked about Rusty and his lack of affect. I'm going to diss him because I don't feel he's a victim. I feel he has some responsibility here. And
maybe that's why it's hard for him to have feeling.
Yeah. I mean, look at all the evidence that the documentary pointed out. Well, I never really interfered with her, listening to this, or I didn't do this. Wouldn't you, when you're in a partnership and somebody's doing something that's bizarre, you kind of go, honey, do you realize that this is a little fringy and etc.? And honey, you're doing this. There was no stops put on Andrea to continue this path. Remember, the postpartum sets the table, but your partner can say, no, we're not going to do this, or no, don't do this, or don't be writing letters to this wacko. Rusty never took any accountability or responsibility to stop her.
Doesn't this remind you of Ruby Frankie's husband as well?
I was
the
going
Jody
to point
Hildebrand
that is so funny.
Story.
Yes.
These men,
Kevin,
these men
who stand
who
by,
tell these stories, or involved in these stories, are interviewed by the police, and they are, I'm just gonna say, kind of mamsy-pamsy in their delivery, where what the fuck? I would be like, my kids moved with Jody Hildebrand and my wife, and I can't see them for a year, just like this Rusty. He chose to look the other way.
After Luke was born, life was pretty busy. Living was more about just managing to get everything done, taking care of the kids. And so I lost touch with the Woroniecki's, but I didn't discourage Andrea from writing if she wanted to write. I'm like, whatever, it's her business, her choice.
I confront you parents who are raising your children. What are you teaching them?
Andrea was herself pretty much the whole time up until a few months after Luke was born. She started withdrawing.
Sin is the nature we were born with.
She'd not been like that before that I ever noticed. One day, she called me at work. She said that I should come home. She didn't sound good. When I got back, Andrea was crouched over and shaking, not saying anything, staring blankly ahead.
Are they learning? God, Bible, Jesus, God, Bible, Jesus, God, Bible, Jesus.
I didn't see it as any kind of illness. I just saw it as, she's just, maybe it's been too much. She's just faltering for some reason.
Are they having that ingrained and trained by a mother?
And we can only carry so much with us. She just needs a break. I don't know I didn't know.
And the biggest evidence is this whole buying the bus to live on and to go around the country spreading the word. Rusty did, I just we bought a bus. Andrea wanted to go and do the same thing as what Michael Woroniecki's doing. So, acquiesced to her craziness. Marriage is a partnership. It's a partnership with equality. Our audience can't see it, but when I'm working with patients, I put my hands up like this and go, it's equal. It's not, the scales of justice going, crazy. It's an equal partnership. And Rusty had no equality or no responsibility in watching this path of craziness go on. And,
But sometimes I think like maybe because of they're such religious fanatics that they feel like there is no emotional on it. It's literally like, this is what I was taught. This is what we do. I'm the man. I work. I have a job. I have sex with my wife to have as many children as possible. She raises the children. I'm not that involved. So why would he? Like, that's what he was probably taught. And it's that vicious cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and we've seen it in other cases where, and especially in the Frankie situation brought up. I mean, she was a very attractive woman, and probably he felt, her husband felt in that case that he was, stepping up. I think here Rusty and Andrea were cute. They were a nice looking couple when, they were young. I think they're pretty equally matched in terms of looks. But I think you're hitting on something here, that he just felt that he can't rock the boat here because, I get my little treats. We have sex often enough. We have at least 5 kids and etc. I'm agreeing with you. I don't know.
Yeah,
this
but
probably doesn't make any sense.
Well, what you mentioned, like a lot of these documentaries, this was a good one, but a lot of them don't cover what were their early lives like. So like we don't know. And that's what I was saying, like with Rusty, maybe this is just how he was raised and so yes, his children died. He was very loyal to Andrea. It was very obvious that, again, this is where that lack of emotion, the kids died, but all he commented on was the fact that she was his wife and he stood by her during the trial, which is admirable. But what about those kids?
Well, this is completely tangent, but I saw something before you guys even suggested this documentary. Do you know he is still visiting Andrea in prison? Rusty is, to this day.
Good for him.
I guess. I don't know. He's married. I don't know.
But he's remarried now. But like, I think maybe I look at that like a little bit of a plus for him because he knew the Andrea and he didn't think that she was a monster. Like, so maybe that's a little bit of a prop for him. But again, I didn't get through the documentary. I didn't feel once, and I'm sure he has, so I don't want to get knocked for this, but I didn't feel that his main priority was the children dying. Like, that to me was like an afterthought. Like, what about how he was communicating in the documentary? There was just such a lack of emotion that it was more emotion for Andrea as opposed to all 5 of his kids died on the same day. Like, that is crazy.
That's crazy.
I would be very different in retelling my story on this documentary.
So would I.
Yeah, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could even do it.
I don't either. I don't know if I'd be alive.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
it's really brutal.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Isn't this the documentary we watched where they when they went in, the investigator was crying or upset?
Yeah.
We've done so many of these.
One of the police officers. Yeah. One of the police officers said, "I've been on crime scenes before, and this is the first one I've lost it." And they showed him absolutely bawling outside.
Yeah, because it's so extreme and and shocking and sad and awful.
You see a lot of homicides, but you don't see a scene like that. Sergeant Randall Beatty never cried in his 16 years in the force until he saw the horrors inside this house.
I'm so nervous, makes my stomach hurt.
Tragedy is an understatement. I don't believe there are words in any language that can describe what has happened.
And again, I don't want to get on Rust, I don't want
Rusty
to be like, who's this Dori who's talking about this man who's a saint or what? Like, I don't know him at all. I'm just going off of
what you saw.
And
you can only go off what you saw.
Yeah, and it's years later. So maybe that's just his demeanor and he is one to keep it all inside. But it was just that. When Stacey texted me, what do you think about the husband? I'm like, oh, I have many thoughts on the husband. To me, he was the one person at this whole documentary that I did not like at all. Just my thought.
I didn't like him either.
He hadn't much of a personality. You know, if I would do a little psychoanalysis on him, he's an engineer that takes, brain power that usually are pretty science oriented, logical, A plus B equals C kind of a brain, but oftentimes the more scientifically oriented individual doesn't have a lot of emotional life. They don't use that part of their brain a lot. And please, audience, this is no knock on engineers or people involved in science, but and he just comes across as just so blank.
Well, and
dry.
Even then I bring up when he met when Moses and Rusty, they have an interaction. Again, no emotion. I felt from Moses' side, like, so good to meet you. And I wanted to get, because we were kind of, as Moses as a kid was leading a parallel life to the Yateses in their bus, following Woroniecki, his preaching and all of that. And the first time meeting someone, again, no emotion. Rusty was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's, nice to meet you. And but like, I would have captured like, oh my gosh, what did you do at this time? Yeah. What is going, and maybe they edited it. I have no idea. But again, weird dynamic.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? I 100% believe what the Woroniecki's would say and my parents' definition of God till I was 16. And when I found out what happened with your family, I was jealous of your kids because they did it. In my definition of heaven,
Oh, wow.
And I'm sorry I felt that way because obviously I know what you. That's some irresponsible. I'm so sorry. But yeah.
I guess I hadn't realized how much some have struggled with and what the impact of his messaging has been. But there are a lot of people whose lives took a completely different route than they would have and who are still suffering from emotional damage from that exposure. And I had no idea. Yours is an amazing story because it started so young. You were born into that.
Our role in these documentaries is that what's behind that? The other thing I just thought of as you were talking to him, is he on like massive medication or something like that he comes across so blank?
I thought of it. I thought of it because he was really, really dry and blank and unaffected. So, there's got to be something.
He was that when they showed early parts of the marriage and the first kids being born. He didn't show a lot of emotion even,
right.
As
I have to say, you said he was. I thought he was kind of a looker back in the day. I'm not going to lie.
He wasn't bad looking. No, I agree.
Dori's
just
crush of the day.
Found a hot person.
Personality wise, I would never, ever, ever be interested ever. But he had some swag back in the day.
He had some swag when he was a brunette as opposed to a white hair.
Dori's
I don't like white hair either. I like a white hair.
No, believe me, I dated a white-haired gentleman for a while. Remember?
That'll be another episode. Let's do
the same guy you dated. The same guy you dated, Dori.
Oh, I didn't.
So here's
date that person. It was occasional hangouts.
Here's a revelation for
interesting.
us. So
yes, John, you're ignoring our banter.
No, I'm not at all.
I'm just joking.
I picked up on something very interesting. So, Stacey, you get all of Dori's leftovers, or what?
Yes, I get Dori's sloppy seconds. I'm the sloppy second. Anybody Dori discards comes my way.
It's
so
creepy.
funny because it literally happened one time, and it was somebody who I went out with when I was like a child, not a real child.
How old were you?
Like when I was like 22, 23. And Stacey met this gentleman much later. Anyway,
I was
I
about
think this may
49.
be a good time to wrap this one up.
All right,
Yeah,
a couple
let's wrap it up.
Can I say a couple of tips for our audience? One is,
Yes.
I really like to emphasize what we talked about in terms of postpartum and your emotions and the table being set. That's number one. Number two, relationships. They're equal. And if you see your partner going into some fringe activity, interest, etc., speak up. Don't just acquiesce to some of this craziness that we see. And number three, just overall, if there's somebody who is so fanatic about something that we've seen in all these cults and all these movements, run for the hills, because extremism should be your red flag that this is not something that you want to get involved in.
If you love our podcast, consider donating any amount to buymeacoffee.com/podcandy. Every bit helps us keep creating the true crime, cult, and pop culture stories you can't stop listening to.
So people can buy us a cup of coffee?
Stay tuned. Our next episode will feature Hollywood Hustler, Glitz, Glam, and Scam on Amazon Prime.
Our theme music is written and performed by Midnight Current. Check out more of their work on SoundCloud. For more about us and to catch up on every episode of Podcandy, head over to podcandypodcast.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.
Podcandy!